me just give you a little background about me. I was born and raised in Michigan. Grew up in a Christian home. I was taken to the Baptist church every Sunday morning, every Sunday evening, and every Wednesday. I heard all about how Jesus died on the cross. And there were many times when the invitation was given and the preacher or the visiting evangelist would tell those hair-raising stories to scare you to death, because his main objective was to get you down the aisle. And I'd be sitting back there. My heart would be pounding. Just scared to death. I don't know what was worse, going to hell or going down the aisle. Seemed like the same thing to me, I'll tell you. Well, went along like that for a long time, going to church, going to Sunday school, going to junior church, going to daily vacation Bible school. And I tell you, I was in every meeting that came along. Went along like that, singing the songs, memorizing the Bible verses, doing the stuff that we do. But always scared to death when it came time for the dreaded invitation. There was a preacher that came along and said, you know, you don't have to walk down the aisle to be saved. You can be saved right where you are. Just raise your hand. And I thought, now there's a good deal. So, the dreaded invitation was given. I got my courage up. Raised my hand. What a bold move, huh? And I remember leaving the church that night and going about my way, and you know, nothing seemed to be different. And nothing happened. I was very confused and frustrated about that. And in the process of time, I decided that, you know, the reason it didn't work was because you got to go down the aisle. So, somewhere down the road, I was in another meeting. The preacher was hot and heavy. The invitation was given. I got my courage up and I walked down the aisle. Man. They took me to a back room. They called the inquiry room. They inquiried me. The man says, pray this prayer. I prayed that prayer. And then he said to me, what do you feel? I said, nothing. Now I am confused. Now I'm really frustrated. Finally had done the ultimate thing. And yet it didn't work. Man. Went away from there. Eventually I just said to myself, you know, maybe if I just get away from all this stuff, it'll all go away. Got away from the church. I got away from mom and dad. And I began to play in music groups. I traveled across the country, went to a lot of places, did a lot of things, had a lot of fun. But I found that the more I filled myself up with the things of this world, no matter what they were, good, bad, or indifferent, eventually they became emptier and emptier and emptier. I became emptier. And for a thoughtful young man, that's a real problem. How can you fill yourself up and get empty? It was in the summer of 1967 that I began to reevaluate my life. And through a hospital situation, I met a pastor, like no preacher that I've ever known in my life. This man was full of compassion, full of grace, and just overwhelmed me. All the preachers I'd known all my life were good at condemning you. And, you know the picture. But this man just overwhelmed me. And so I was taken, and so I got up real early one Sunday morning. And for me, back then, real early was before noon. And I got up and I went around the corner to the First Baptist Church of Asbury Park, New Jersey. And the preacher preached in plain English. And I heard the gospel. And even though I heard the gospel all my life, it wasn't until the summer of 1967 that I really heard it. Because God, by his sovereign grace, reached way down to Asbury Park, New Jersey. And that's way down there, I want to tell you. And he saved me. When I simply began to take God at his word. When I simply embraced Jesus for who he is. He is Lord.